A theme that often comes up at church is practicing spiritual disciplines. I don't know about you, but there are some words that don't sit well with me, and discipline is certainly one of them. So let me talk to you about discipline and motivation, and let me start with a story. When I was 16, my involvement at church had waned. I was sure there was no God, but my friends were all at church. I had been away from the youth group for a while, and I didn't know what all was going on. I went to a youth meeting at someone's house one evening, and there were two guys there with guitars who I'd never seen before. They were leading, singing, and more importantly, at least to the mind of a 16-year-old boy, the girls were flocked around them. My dating life was abysmal, and I determined that night that the solution was to learn to play guitar. So I went out and bought a guitar. It cost me $25. That included a case, strap, extra set of strings, a chord book, and some guitar picks. You can imagine the quality of the instrument at that price. I told no one that I bought a guitar. I sat in my bedroom and practiced 2 to 4 hours a day. This went on from Easter until Christmas, when I was finally ready to debut my guitar playing skills. I should note that my skills were not that great, but one of those guys was gracious enough to invite me to play along with him at the youth group. I should also note that despite my best efforts, the girls did not flock around me. However, I was glad I took up the guitar. Since I had no girlfriends, I had a ton of spare time to practice guitar. I have a friend who was in the music program at Humber College. A professor once said to him, "If you miss one practice, you will know it. If you miss 2 practices, I will know it. If you miss 3 practices, everyone will know it." I peaked in my guitar playing skills, or my attempt at guitar playing skills, about 7 or 8 years ago. I don't have the same driving motivation to practice. After all, I did eventually meet and marry, so attracting girls was no longer a motivating factor. And I haven't had an opportunity to gig or play in bands since moving to Brampton. My skills have diminished along with my motivation to practice. And this is where discipline comes in. Discipline is what keeps you going, what keeps you working on something when the motivation wanes. It is easy to work on something that you are passionate about, or when you have an important goal or due date, or when your job is on the line, but it is harder to maintain that same focus and apply that same energy and give something the time it needs when the motivation is not there. Going back to where I started, getting girlfriends, we all remember that initial flush of true love. Thinking nonstop about that special person, not being able to sleep, longing to be with them. But let's be frank, you can't maintain that level of infatuation. If nothing else, it'll wear you out. And if that flush of true love leads to a long-term relationship, you will eventually start to think about other things, lots of other things. This is where discipline comes in. The discipline to work at a relationship long after the initial excitement and passion is gone. The discipline of commitment to that person and to the relationship you have with that person is what will carry that relationship on. The same thing is true in our spiritual relationship with God. I didn't become a Christ follower to pick up girls, but when I first became a Christian, I was totally driven to grow my faith and deepen my relationship with God. I was excited to know Jesus and to experience this new way of living. But over time, that initial excitement declined. And along with it, some of those spiritual practices, such as prayer, Bible reading, going to church, etc., it became easier to be distracted by all the other things in my life, such as gigging in a band. Yes, I still read the Bible every day, and I pray pretty much without ceasing. The Journey Neighborhood Center can do that to you. However, I'm not as compelled as by that initial excitement, that initial motivation to know God and to know about God as I was when I first came to faith. This is where the discipline comes in for spiritual practices. You just can't maintain that same level of energy and excitement, that initial adrenaline rush over any kind of long period of time. At some point, you just have to buckle down and carve out the time to pray, to read the Bible, and these days to spend time in Zoom calls with other Christian followers. So, what can we conclude? Well, first of all, motivation plays an important role in growth, spiritual, personal, professional. We dive in much deeper when we are driven by, passionate about, and motivated to grow. However, it is when we hit those lean times that discipline needs to take over. I still practice my guitar, even when I don't feel like it. I still pray because I need to. I still grow because I have to. And if I miss a practice, soon everyone knows.